Hello and welcome to my video. Before we move into the details of ground fault, short circuit, overload, and overcurrent, let me tell you what I am trying to cover in this video. I'll explain why the circuit breaker keeps tripping. Is it ground fault, short circuit, overload, or overcurrent? If a ground fault and the short circuit is same, then why does a ground fault trip the breaker, look like a short circuit? How a motor can draw overcurrent without any short circuit or ground fault. And why does motor overload not trip immediately like a short circuit? I'll also cover why does a motor trip even when there is no short circuit. Also, we have observed that overcurrent damage wires even without a short circuit. But why? I'll also explain that how to find motor ground fault or short circuit exact root cause in industry. The most important, what is the most common cause of electrical problems in industry and how to rectify it? I'll also discuss some scenario when motor trip instantly sometimes, but many times it trip after a few minutes. But why? I will explain all of these to clear your concept practically. If your concepts about ground fault, short circuit, overcurrent, and overload are not clear, then watch this video completely. Listen to it word by word, and don't skip any part. Okay, let's be very open to discussing ground faults, especially because they're so common both in industry and at home. Many people confuse ground faults with short circuits, since in both cases the circuit breaker trips. Okay, now, I am going to show you how and why a short circuit happens. I'm giving you a practical scenario, right here, right now. I'm going to short two phases together, and you'll see what happens with the breaker and how it reacts in real time. So here I am going to jump two phases, blue and yellow, through a jumper wire. But before we get started, just a quick note for all the engineers and technicians out there. This is a simulation, not a live setup. In the real world, short circuits are no joke. I'll say it one more time. Never try this on live equipment. I'm running it safely through simulation and animation. Remember, safety isn't just a rule. It's part of who we are. Now I'm going to short two phases to see what happens.
Mike, this is an emergency call. Feed water motor 2 has tripped. Please proceed to the unit and check immediately. Repeat, check immediately.
Copy that, Control. I'm moving toward feed water pump 2 now.
Control room, this is Mike. There's fire inside the panel. I repeat, there is fire in the feed water motor panel. Isolate the power supply to the panel.
Copy that, Mike.
Copy that, Mike.
Confirmed fire at the feed water motor panel. Stay clear of the area. Power is isolated. The fire team is on the way, Jiv.
All right. This is how industries handle a short circuit. I just gave you a demo so you can understand how to communicate and respond during an emergency. If, God forbid, it ever happens in real life. Always stay safe. Please comment if you face any such scenario in real life to share your experience. Now, let's move on to another point where a short circuit can occur. It's right after the motor magnetic contactor and overload, where the wiring can short out for several reasons, like poor maintenance, loose connections, or aging insulation. I'm showing you all of this to help you identify the root cause and build a basic understanding of how these faults happen and how to handle them safely with an open mind. No ifs or buts. This short circuit will respond the same way as we saw before. The breaker should trip instantly right after the fault occurs. The important thing to notice here is the breaker catching fire, which I'll show you after this scenario. In reality, there should never be any fire in the breaker, whether it's an MCB, MCCB, magnetic contactor, or overload relay. The breaker should trip instantly, but there should not fire. Next, the short circuit can be in the motor winding that can lead to short circuit in the same way as you've seen. Inside a motor, the copper windings carry current in three phases, U, V, and W. If these windings get damaged or their insulation breaks, two phases can touch each other, like U with V or V with W, causing a short circuit inside the motor. Sometimes one phase may touch the metal body of the motor. That's called a ground fault. Both situations are dangerous because they create high current flow and can damage the motor or trip the circuit break. Okay, now I explain you the concept of ground fault, when it happened before the load and after the load. In a normal circuit, electricity flows from the phase wire, goes through the load, and returns through the neutral wire. The load uses this current to do useful work, like lighting a bulb or running a motor. The current that goes out and comes back is the same, so the circuit stays safe and balanced. Now think about a ground fault before the load. This means the phase wire touches the grounded metal part of the system before the current reaches the load. The electricity takes the easiest path, straight to the ground, instead of passing through the load. Because of this, no useful work happens, and a large fault current flows. The fuse or circuit breaker should trip quickly to stop the fault, keeping the system safe. But when a fault happens after the load, it's a different story. I repeat again. When a fault happens after the load, it's a different story. It's not the same as hot wire touches ground before the load. This time, the current must first pass through the load before leaking to the ground. The load adds resistance, so the fault current is small, maybe just a few milliamps. That's far below what an MCB can detect. So the MCB stays on. There's no large overcurrent for it to sense. However, because some current is leaking out through the ground instead of fully returning, the circuit now has an imbalance. The MCB will not trip. For this minor leakage, the RCD, GFCI, or ELCB detects that minor difference in current, even a small 30 milliamp leakage, and immediately trips the power. Okay, now I explain the GFCI. A GFCI means ground fault circuit interrupter. It detects small current leakage to ground and stops power instantly to protect people from shock. A GFCI's job is to protect people, not the wiring or the equipment. I repeat again, a GFCI's protect the people in case of electric shock. It constantly watches the current going out through the phase wire and the current coming back through the neutral. Under the normal conditions, those two currents are perfectly equal. Whatever current goes out must come back the same. But if there's a ground fault, such as when electricity leaks through moisture, damaged insulation, or even through a person touching a live wire, some of that current escapes to the ground. That means the outgoing and returning currents are no longer the same. The GFCI instantly detects this small difference, even as low as 4 to 6 milliamps, and it reacts incredibly fast, in less than 1/40th of a second. It shuts off the power right away, stopping the flow of dangerous current before serious injury or shock can occur. Okay, a very important question. When a short circuit happens, why does the breaker catch fire instead of just tripping? If the breaker protects, then why does it catch fire? In fact, most of the time, breakers work exactly how they should. They detect the fault, they trip, and they cut off the power. That's their job, and they do it well. But here's the thing. Sometimes, in certain conditions, a breaker can fail. Instead of tripping safely, it catches fire. And that's exactly what we're going to understand today. So the question is, what makes a breaker burn instead of trip? Let me explain what really happens. During a short circuit, a huge amount of current rushes through. Way more than normal. Now, the breaker's job is to stop that current and trip. But here's the catch. Every breaker has a limit. It can only handle so much. If the fault current is stronger than that limit, the breaker just can't handle it. The parts inside get too hot. The metal contacts start melting. Sparks form inside. And that's when the breaker burns or catches fire. So what do we call this limit? It's called the short circuit current rating. Or simply, SCCR. Think of SCCR as the breaker's maximum strength. It tells us how much fault current the breaker can safely stop, without burning, breaking, or exploding. In simple words, you can say, Different places need different strength levels. Before we move to short circuit calculation, let me show you something very simple: how to read a breaker. Because these little numbers printed on it actually tell you how strong and how safe it is. When you look at the label, you'll see UE equals 400 volts. That means the breaker is made to work safely up to 400 volts. Next, UIMP equals 6 kV. That's the lightning or surge voltage it can handle, the shock it can take without getting damaged. Then ICN equals 6,000 amps. That's the biggest fault current it can stop the moment it saves your home. And finally, TRF 30 degrees Celsius, the temperature where it was tested to make sure it performs accurately. Now, here's the most important part. Everything depends on what kind of breaker you choose. Either you compromise and buy something weak, or you spend a little more to protect your house and your life. Many small industries and even homes try to save a little money by buying cheap breakers. But one short circuit can wipe out everything: their machines, their home, and sometimes even lives. Okay, after looking the damages due to short circuit in daily life, why not we should choose the breaker that only trip in case of short circuit instead of getting fire. I repeat again, why not I should choose the breaker that only trip in case of short circuit instead of getting fire. But how it is possible? We need to calculate the short circuit current to know how much fault current can flow during a failure. This ensures the breakers, cables, and equipment are strong enough to handle it safely without fire or damage. I am giving an example for calculation for short circuit current to you for your ease to understand everything step by step. Step 1: explain and show you the calculation for full load current. It calculates the normal current your transformer or circuit carries when everything is running safely and normally. This step is important because it tells us how much current the system handles every day and helps us size the breaker's ampere rating correctly. Step 2: explain the fault condition to and to calculate the short circuit current. It finds how large the current becomes the moment a fault occurs, when two wires accidentally touch each other or phase connected to metal piece. This shows the maximum energy that rushes through the circuit and tells us how strong the breaker must be to survive that fault safely. Step 3: show the effective distance for cable length. As current travels through the cable, resistance reduces it slightly. So the farther the panel is from the transformer, the lower the fault current becomes. This step helps us get a realistic value instead of the theoretical maximum. Step 4: compare and choose the breaker. Finally, compare the normal and the fault currents. Then choose a breaker whose short circuit rating is higher than the calculated fault current. This ensures the breaker will trip safely and protect the equipment from fire or damage. All right, quick question for you. Which breaker would you choose for your refrigerator from last example? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't worry if you get it wrong, because by the end of this lesson, you'll walk away with solid real-world knowledge. That's how great engineers and smart homeowners are made. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel as token of appreciation. Okay, people mostly ask that why doesn't a circuit breaker protect people? Because we all trust the breaker to keep us safe, but the truth is, it only guards the equipment, not the person. It's a matter of understanding and technical knowledge. When we build new homes or wire up machines, people often try to save a few dollars and skip proper safety devices. And sometimes it takes one accident to remind us why they matter. Then, they ask what we install to protect home from fire and kids to protect from electric shocks. Real protection means stopping current from harming people. That's the job of devices like the GFCI, ELCB, RCD, or RCBO, not the MCCB or MCCB. The power from the main source first passes through layers of protection. It starts with the MCB or MCCB, which trip when there's an overload or a short circuit. These protect the wiring, panels, and motors from high current faults, but they can't sense small current leaks that can pass through a person. Next are the magnetic contactor and overload relay. The contactor controls when the motor starts or stops, and the overload relay prevents the motor from overheating, keeping machines safe, but not people. That's why we add ground fault protection devices like RCDs, RCCBs, RCBOs, ELCBs, and ground fault relays. They detect even the smallest leakage current, as low as 30 milliamps, and cut the power instantly to protect life and equipment. For small motors under 5 horsepower, we use an MCB with an RCD around 30 milliamperes. Medium motors up to 25 horsepower use an MCB or MCCB with an RCD set between 100 and 300 milliamperes. Larger motors up to 100 horsepower use an MCCB with an earth fault relay between 300 milliamperes and 1 amp. And heavy industrial motors above 100 horsepower need sensitive ground fault relays set around 1 to 5 amps to prevent fire or serious. So, there is an important question. Will an ELCB really stop you from getting shocked? What do you think of it? Please comment to share the experience. Okay, in actual, it can't stop the first tiny spark you might feel, but it reacts within milliseconds. Fast enough to break the current before a small mistake becomes a tragedy. That's why we call the ELCB a life-saving device. It doesn't just protect wires, it protects you. The moment electricity leaks toward a person or the motor's body, it cuts off the supply instantly. An RCD works the same way. It constantly compares the current going out and coming back, and if even a few milliamps go missing, it shuts down the circuit instantly. It's like a guard that never blinks. Electricians often prefer the RCBO because it does both jobs: overload protection like an MCB and leakage detection like an RCD, in one compact device. So remember this: breakers protect the equipment, but RCDs, ELCBs, and RCBOs protect life. Together, they make your electrical system completely safe. One protect the machines, the other protect the people. Okay, to find out the short circuit and ground fault in the motor, we need to perform the winding resistance test and insulation resistance test. I am going to show you how easy to perform the winding resistance test. Before performing this, double-check and make sure that power is isolated and power wires are disconnected from motor junction box or connection box. Okay, first, I am starting with the V phase. I am checking between V1 and V2. Remember, forget about the number written on the terminal. It might be wrong, so we check one by one. It's a matter of hardly 1 or 2 minutes, very quick and simple. Once I get the proper V1 and V2, I measure the resistance of the coil. It's showing 4.20 ohms, which means this phase is perfectly good. This winding is healthy and balanced. That's our first phase confirmed. Now let's move to the U phase. I'm going to find U1 and U2, again checking where I get continuity so that I can note the resistance value. If the reading is similar, we can say this phase also is okay. And finally, we'll test the W phase, finding W1 and W2 in the same way. Step by step, we confirm continuity and resistance. If everything falls in the same resistance range, that means all 3 phases are in good condition. After that, perform the insulation resistance test to confirm that the motor's insulation is in good condition, following the test procedure I shared with you. For insulation resistance test, use a Megger tester. Connect one probe to the motor terminal and the other to the motor frame. Press the test button and check the reading. A high resistance value means the insulation is healthy, while a low reading indicates moisture or insulation damage that needs attention. Thanks for watching my video. I truly appreciate your time. If you have any questions or face any confusion, please ask in the comments section. I will do my best to reply and help you.